Welcome back to the program. Let's go. Line number 6. Robert, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Patty. How are you? Welcome back from your vacation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, so it's not actually EcoWatchNL. I'm a member of EnvirowatchNL.
Oh, my apologies.
That's fine. I just want to correct that so people can find us online. So this weekend, I'm from Milton Point, Leamington, so anybody who doesn't know my voice from when I called in before. There was a rally, or I guess not really a rally, it was more of a demonstration that was held by Protect NL to raise awareness out in the exploits area for the people who aren't informed about the proposal for the wind hydrogen development. And there was a great turnout. There was about 40 people at each event. They had one at the overpass to Botwood Highway at about 10:30 a.m., and there was another one in the afternoon at 2 p.m. on the other side of on the main Trans-Canada Highway. So both of those had excellent support from the public. Hundreds of cars passing by, sounding their horns in solidarity. There were literally only 2 vehicles that passed by who gave a thumbs down or didn't sound their horn. So it was a fantastic experience to see the support of the public out here on our side. And I think that's a great example of the public's desire. So right now in Point Leamington, myself and Leanna, we have a petition that we're circulating. Well, actually, we just put it at the gas station. We didn't really circulate it very much, but we've got almost half of the town's voting residents to sign on to rescind the letter of support to EVREC. Unfortunately, our municipal leaders aren't listening to us. I'm not sure exactly what they think is going to happen when these projects go ahead, but the economic benefits, in my opinion, are just not there. So,
what would be your thought on economic benefits? Because I mean, the reality is we were told at one point, and this is not about EVRAC or Everwind or Pattern Energy, but specifically about World Energy, GH2, is they said quite clearly they wouldn't require any government money. Now, all of a sudden, they have a $128 million line of credit with the federal government. Apparently, no provincial monies will be spent, nor should they. We still don't know what the federal government involvement will be in full. They're yet to come up with a clear definition of green, because there's a long way between interaction with the Nova Scotia grid versus the Newfoundland Labrador grid, and that, of course, is going to be required for final investment decision. The water royalties, in some people's minds, are quite meagre, especially when we talk about cost recovery before the royalties kick in. Land lease is in place, so jobs, I mean, we don't know exactly how many jobs will be in the construction phase and or permanent, but if you're talking about the lack of required economic benefit, where do you start? So what would change, or what should change?
Well, that's a great question. So for my idea would be if the government actually did one project at a time and they were able to hire exclusively Newfoundlanders for the construction project instead of bringing in outside workers, and then we could have the same crew move from one development to the other, and we could have a longer full-time jobs for these people in construction, and then won't risk as much of our infrastructure environment and government funding in order to make sure that these ideas are actually feasible. So I know they're all rushing to try to be the first to market, but none of them actually have any signed firm offtake agreements. And it appears to me that it's just an example of poor leadership right from the federal to provincial and municipal governments and leadership. And these proponents, if you look into the history of them, they don't really have a great past business experience for the locals in the areas they're operating, including John Risley with FPI and Ravi Sood of EVREC with Buchanan Renewables and Galen Gold, and the other one, Ferroni Inc., sorry.
Well, let's walk through that a little bit, Robert, because the benefits agreements as struck, whether it be oil industry or hydroelectric development or whatever the case may be, they're tricky to implement in full. And when you talk about skilled trades and a staggered approach to these projects, is that even something that's realistic to pursue? Because if I'm a private sector entity, unless the government just kind of stacks the chairs here and says, well, we're just going to stagger green lights based on access to local resources, skilled trades in particular, like at this moment in time, I don't even know if we have the required skilled trades here to take on even World Energy in full with nothing but locals to be hired. So can we really stagger them to our own actual benefit versus the access to capital and the approvals granted, environmental assessments and otherwise for the companies? Because I think I know where you're going, but is that even a realistic, manageable expectation that you're putting forward?
Well, I believe it is. I mean, if this company, or sorry, our leadership here in Newfoundland, our government, they have zero experience with renewables. So right now they're so arrogant and confident in their abilities. They're literally putting, I think Brenda said, what was it, 3,000 turbines across our province with minimal regulations to protect the health and safety of our environment and residents. I know in the exploits region here, the proponent Everett is saying that they're going to be placing these 7-megawatt turbines that are 220 meters from the ground to the tip, up to 550 meters away from people's homes. So that is just absolute lunacy, in my opinion. As well, they're also placing the turbines, I believe it was 650 meters apart. So now you can go online and you can read about wake turbulence from scientific studies about these wind turbines. And the experts recommend that they be placed between 5 to 7 times the height apart from each other to reduce the amount of wake turbulence from these turbines. So again, the proposals that are coming out from Everett just is a glaring example of their lack of knowledge about the industry, and they're relying on, they're saying their partners and their experience. But when you ask them what projects and experience that they have in this industry, they just say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't tell you that because of company confidentiality. So it's very upsetting that they're saying, oh, look at my resume, I've got all these great experiences, but when you ask to see it, they're saying, no, we're not going to show you. You just have to trust us blindly and believe that we're going to be an economic driver for your area by setting up mobile work camps and bringing in outside workers. And again, with the Newfoundland Benefits Agreement thing, my prediction with that is that they're going to put these job postings out. You're not going to get people from Alberta to move back for 3 years of construction when they have homes and lives in Alberta. So they're going to say, well, the people locally aren't willing to work for low wages, so we got to bring in some outside workers.
Yeah, possibly. And just one thing that I think is an important clarification is the total number of turbines quoted by Brenda is if every single proposal in its entirety is fully implemented. And I think that's a bit of a stretch in my personal opinion. I mean, when I even look around at what the business model looks like on the other side, and of course we can only talk about Germany because that's really the only MOU that's been in place. The water and the beans have changed somewhat in that country. So, and then of course you look at access to capital in a very new industry that is in its infancy. If at this moment in time, and there might be more money coming in for Mr. Risley's operation, but $50 million from a Korean company and $128 million line of credit inside a project that is estimated to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 to $14 billion, I would imagine getting access to the money is a little bit more difficult than we're led to believe at this moment in time. Same thing across the world of energy, period. Unless it's some of the issues where we see the price point come back to earth a little bit. And absolutely solar is an example there. And if people don't believe me, just look at the numbers. They're quite clear. So even in the oil industry, it's become difficult to get money for industrial development. So all those 3,000 plus turbines, I'm going to guess, I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know what the future holds in full, but I would be shocked if every single proposal got off the ground. Absolutely shocked.
Honestly, I don't believe any of these will go ahead. Maybe the smallest one, I think it was, which one was the smallest one then? In Pattern in Argentia, I believe.
Yeah, and of course that's a different kettle of fish because their first phase includes land owned by the Port of Argentia, did not require a release regarding Crown lands, right? So that's a little bit of a different fish.
So in my opinion, like I wouldn't claim to be an expert in anything, but in my opinion, it feels like they're the most likely ones that would be successful because of smaller investment capital costs. But if you listen to the different reports, and I think there was a CBC interview where Ravi Sood was questioned and asked, how long do you expect to recoup your capital investment before you start paying royalties and et cetera, et cetera? And he said approximately 5 to 10 years is his expectation. But and then I'm really concerned with that because if you Google and look up what the market price for green ammonia is right now, it's about $1,000 a ton U.S. So in order for them to make a 10-year payback, they have to profit $900 U.S. off of every ton that they make. So then they have to sell it for basically more than what the current market price is. And I know you're going to say that, but we're having this double-sided auction to offset the cost of it. But you have, 6 or 7 projects now in Newfoundland alone, plus and 200 million euros to spread about all of them.
I'm not saying that. I never make reference to the double-sided auction, to be honest with you, because for me,
but it just.
Sorry.
It just goes to show that the whole idea is just, I call it asinine, but it's a great example of lack of responsible leadership. Like I said, so the federal government came in and The German chancellor came over looking for ethical natural gas. Justin Trudeau said it's not a market or not a viable business case, so we're going to set up all these turbines, sell the heart and soul of Newfoundland to make energy for Germany. So then they're not doing a federal environmental assessment, which is completely irresponsible, in my opinion, due to indigenous relations, migratory birds, and fisheries and oceans, three things that are directly controlled by federal government. And then the provincial government, they're saying, oh, the province is doing a great job. But then the province is saying, oh, we're not doing any meetings. We're just going to let the proponents do it. And then the proponents aren't answering questions or responding to people. And when they do have these public meetings, it's all just a smoke show with lies and misinformation.
I appreciate the time. For me, what I've made reference to in the past is, and it's not my business model to satisfy, but any of the monies flowing are only operational monies. So people are worried, we've already spent X, we've already spent Z. No, any money, tax subsidy in particular, comes with operational thresholds to be met. So it's not cash on the barrelhead for pre-development. And on the other side, I mean, if you just look at what's happening at the Port of Rotterdam and the offload capacity that's not in place, if you look at the fact that the Germans have set aside 1.2 billion euros to help offset the cost of green hydrogen, it's not me saying it, it's them saying it. So they have figured out that there are other alternatives, because this was all, the impetus was about going away from a reliance on Russian natural gas. That's kind of where a lot of this got kick-started. But that's not even really the case either, because they've figured out a way to avoid that particular source and come up with ideas that are not including Russia, that are not including green hydrogen. So I guess that's Mr. Risley's issue, to be honest, but we'll see where it goes. Final thoughts to you, Robert, before I have to get going.
Final thought is off topic here now, but it's with the fishery and the commercial food fishery and the potential of offshore draggers coming again. And my opinion, and I think a lot of people feel this way, I'm old enough to remember catching cod whenever we want it as a child, before the moratorium. I remember ice fishing through the ice in front of my father's cabin and catching cod. So in my opinion, there should be no talks of trawlers. There should be no talks of a commercial fishery until the moratorium is completely lifted and you don't force people to risk their lives only on 3 days every weekend during the summer. That could potentially be catastrophic because of poor weather. So until that happens, then opening the commercial fishery is a spit in the face of every Newfoundland and Labrador resident. So that's just my closing thoughts.
I appreciate the time. Thanks for the call.
Thank you very much. Have
You're
a
welcome.
great day.
You too, Robert. Bye-bye.